everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of ISLA La Land, a podcast run by and for international students in Sydney. My name is Mohit, and I'll be your host for tonight. First of all, a very good evening to everyone who is watching us live tonight on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us, and feel free to leave comments and reactions in the live chat below. So we'll be reading some of them throughout the episode for our guests to respond to. I'd also like to welcome everyone and wish you guys a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world, to those who are watching us through the replays on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify and Anchor. Before we begin, I would just like to do the acknowledgement of country. And for those who might not be aware or are not in Sydney, this is a protocol that we do to acknowledge and pay our respects to the Indigenous people and the traditional custodians of the lands that we're on today. I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present. All right, so for today's episode, we will be taking a trip down memory lane. Our guests today will be reliving their childhood in their home country, or in the case of some of our guests, home countries, plural. We will be discussing a general appreciation of the cultures around the world, and continuing to embrace that in such a diverse country like Australia. All right, so now I'd like to introduce our guests with us today. Hi guys, thanks so much for joining us today. So I guess we can start off with Celine. Hello, Celine.
Hi, just opened my video a bit quick earlier. So hi everyone, my name is Celine and I'm from China. 大家好, and I'm currently a second year student studying at USID. My major is media and finance. Yeah, so glad to meet everyone here.
Awesome, thanks a lot, Celine. Next up, we have Henry.
Hello, alo ming lava. My name is Henry, and I'm an international student from Myanmar, which is also called the Golden Land. I'm currently studying a double degree in professional accounting and business analytics at Macquarie University.
Awesome, thanks a lot for joining us today, Henry. Next up, we've got Purva.
Hello, namaste guys. My name is Purva. I am from India and I'm studying at UNSW currently. I'm doing my Master of Commerce in Business Analytics and Financial Technology.
Awesome, thanks a lot, Purva. And last but not least, we've got Smriti.
Hi everyone, Namaskar. I'm also from India, just from a different part of India. I started my study at UNSW in the mechanical engineering in 2019. I'm doing my PhD and I hope it will be a lot more fun today. So yeah.
Awesome, thanks a lot guys for that wonderful introduction. All right, so now that we've got all the formalities out of the way, we can go on with our episode. So to start off, since we're all in lockdown at the moment, I just wanted to check in and ask, how are you guys going? Maybe we can just go around the room and share what we've been up to in terms of uni, any hobbies and interests that we've been taking up during the lockdown. Maybe we can start off with Purva. You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I haven't really been doing anything much, just chilling. I was on break, so I'm starting uni tomorrow. But basically not doing much, but I'm trying to cook recently, trying to experiment. Yeah.
Yep, I think cooking has been quite a big theme in like all of our participants in the podcast in previous episodes as well.
Mm-hmm.
For like, you know, some of us are great chefs, but in the case of some others, like myself,
Like me
you know,
too.
and you too as well. Okay, I guess, you know, we have our hits and misses. Henry, what have you been up to?
Well, since it's been 2 months of lockdown, yeah, I haven't gone out of 5K except that I had a vaccine shot like 3 days ago at the Sydney Olympic Park, so that was quite fun to actually legally travel outside of my 5 kilometer region. So yeah, other than that, about work, there was a huge switch from walking at the office to working from home, so it was impactful and it took quite a while to actually adjust, but now my whole work team is able to work together as a team, so yeah, it's been great.
Definitely, that's great to hear, Henry. I totally relate with you, by the way. It feels like anywhere you go now, it feels like an excursion. Even if you're going out to get vaccinated, it feels like you're going out on a picnic. Going on trains and like on buses and stuff. But, oh well. How about you, Smriti?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing pretty well. I recently started cooking a couple of cuisines, which are authentic to my province back in India. So I'm from Odisha, and there are a couple of pitas that I tried recently. I've been putting a lot of posts in Facebook, and thanks a lot for all my friends' likes, comments, and appreciations. And today I had my second. I had my second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, and I'm doing fine. I just feel like I'm invincible, after getting the second dose. So yeah, I'm doing pretty well.
Awesome to hear. Hope you're feeling okay after that second dose. But yeah. Celine.
Yeah, I would say like the thing you guys mentioned are so relatable. For the second vaccine dose I just got last week, with Brian, like we legit shoot a vlog of like just on the way, like an excursion vibe to Macquarie Fields, which is like over 5 km. Yeah, super happy. Like, yeah, I mean, like just get the vaccine. But anyways, currently I'm still studying from home, so like still doing my uni. And yeah, I've tried to cook a lot, like all the food from different countries, like Korean style, Japanese, like Indian, like just all the kinds of food. And also I repick like the guitar like which I bought during last lockdown, which is last year. So like you just kind of repick the thing like you did, like you've been through during the last lockdown. Yeah, so that's basically my life.
For sure. Yeah, I think like the same as me as well. Like I've been trying to practice my instruments a bit here and there, but trying to pick up from where I left off long ago. But yeah, awesome to know that you guys are doing well. All right, so we can get straight into the meat of today's episode. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll be talking about our childhood from our home countries and just to know what it's like growing up and how have things changed since moving to Australia, I guess. So firstly, I'm really curious to know about what your social life was back home. So things like how was life in high school? What were your interactions like with people back home? And if you had like a favorite subject in high school, maybe, and if you had any interests or hobbies growing up that you still follow to this day. Maybe we can start with Smriti. You want to go first?
Sure. So in the high school, I would say it was pretty. It wasn't that exciting. Like life was pretty. Like you go to school, you come back, you go to tuition, you come back, and you repeat the same cycle. There are a couple of subjects that I really loved. I think and those are the ones which I actually pursued later as well. Basically, maths and physics, and that's why I ended up being an engineer, and I kept pursuing that line further. Until I realized like political science, economics can be as interesting as well. It's just that I realized it a bit later. And other than that, I was pretty like I consider myself a pretty introverted person. So I do not talk to many people. I do not have many friends. It's just that until I think mid last year, I started to like get along with many people, join many societies, and started having many friends. And then I ended up with ISLA, and then there I got so many other friends. But yeah, back in like if you ask me about my high school, like primary school, upper primary, and high school, uh, any and every friend of mine you'd ask, they would say, okay, Smriti is a guy who never talked to anyone, very shy, he's always within his sphere, like that. And then I remember there was one particular subject in my high school that I really loved. It was the Vedic mathematics. So it's like, in maths, there are certain techniques and tricks, like in day-to-day, like if you ask people, they call it funny tricks or like magic maths and stuff. So it's like, say, for example, if you have two four-digit numbers, how you multiply it within 10 seconds without any calculator, just in your minds. So there used to be competitions, like you have to find square root of 11-digit number. So I used to, I know all those tricks, and we used to participate in those type of competitions, state level, national level. And I was pretty good at that, but then I lost touch. So yeah. And then I think I belong to such a part of Odisha, which was it's not at all an urban area. which means I have seen the mountains, the lakes, the rivers, the tribal people more than the skyscrapers and the concrete jungle, if I'd say. So yeah, I think that's all about me. But yeah, like after coming to Australia, I have explored a different facets of my personality, and I thought like maybe I could be a different person as well. So maybe the Smriti that you see right now in front of the computer is not the same which I was back in my high school.
That's so cool. Hey, can I make a mention about the thing that you mentioned about mathematics and participating in all these national competitions and doing like mind maths essentially?
Yes.
For me, I used to be very like fascinated by that, and I kind of used to try to do that stuff when I was younger. But now, if you ask me what 2 + 2 is, I will tell you that it's 5. So it's just gone out of my head completely. Henry, what about you?
Um, taking back to the time when I was back in my school life, high school life, I would say I was very approachable and very sociable. I believe I participated in almost all the high school events that I've had, including sports events, including as well as charity events, volunteering events. I was even elected as a school captain in my year 12 for the whole term, which lasts like a year. So I managed to implement some changes to the student council systems, did some volunteering projects as well as fundraising activities. So it was quite enjoyable. Yeah.
That's amazing. Henry, what sporting events were you part of back home?
If it's just in our school, I participate in almost every sport. I played football, I did badminton, I swam. So yeah, but if it's within other schools like around our city, I was in a volleyball high school team, so I played in 2 years in competitively in the team. So yeah, but
That's
don't ask,
amazing.
yeah, but don't ask me about academics. So
No, that's amazing. And what you mentioned about being approachable, I'm sure everyone here at ISLA can definitely resonate with that. We definitely all find you very approachable. Celine, did you want to talk next?
Oh, yeah, the social life in my high school. The time you asked the question, I was like, did I ever have like any social life in high school? And yeah, I'm just kidding. Like, it's kind of like high school to me are more like I'm just kind of fully focused on my like study, pretty like a nerd, but I guess it could resonate with most of the Chinese high school students because we kind of have a very like rival competition like for your university entrance examination, which is called Gaokao in China. And yeah, so it's kind of stressful, and like I just didn't pay much attention to that, which I deem is kind of a loss from today if I saw it, saw it from like my past. And yeah, if I need to pinpoint like few things, I would say like also like sports always the best way to like get to know people. And yeah, like our high school do have some societies, but like I wasn't very into society. So yeah, that's just basically my high school social life.
That's amazing. Hey, in terms of like your interests and hobbies, I know you're very like into photography and stuff at the moment. Big fan of things that you capture on your Instagram. So
Oh my God,
is that
thank you so
something
much.
that you've been like into since growing up, or is that something
Oh
that you've
yeah,
developed more recently?
I actually got my first camera like in high school. So, and I also joined like the camera society, not camera, but like photography society in China. So yeah, that was kind of when I started doing photographs.
That's amazing. We'll definitely investigate that further as the episode goes along.
Yeah.
Purva,
Yeah, so for me, I did my high school in Japan. So I went to international school there. I was also introvert like Smriti. I didn't really participate in much until like 10th grade when I joined the hip hop team and the volleyball team. And then I played volleyball nationals like over there as well. But yeah, I was really quiet throughout high school, didn't have that many friends as well. But yeah, and then it changed a lot when I went for a bachelor's degree, and my transformation continued after that.
yeah, I guess what I found really fascinating about you was the fact that you've lived in so many different countries. So, going from like, I think some of the countries that you mentioned were like China and then Finland, even Finland, like I don't think I've ever met someone that's actually lived in Finland for a specific period of time. But I guess my question to you would be, do you have like a favorite place that you wish you spent like longer in, like a favorite country, like maybe the people, the places?
I feel like everyone asks me this question at this point. But I like all the countries. Honestly, every country has its own good qualities and bad things. But one place that I definitely like wished I lived longer in, which I also lived like the longest in, was the US. I did my bachelor's there. That's where I changed a lot in my personality, grew up, made my closest friends there. So that's the main reason, like I wish I stayed there longer.
Definitely. I think it's the upside of like having visited so many places that you get to experience all these different cultures and like, you know, the different customs that they have in their own country. So it's amazing to know that you've had the opportunity to actually experience that and come here and kind of experience a lot more. So yeah, that's awesome. All right, so next up, we have a bit more of an interesting question, which is something that we touched on earlier in our introductions. It's about food. So it's more to do about what kind of food is associated with your home countries or places that you've lived in the case of Pura, of course. But I guess we could start off with Celine. So what kind of like food is associated with your home?
So like the special food in my home country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like, cause since Sydney has a Chinatown, right? And like on the street, there are a lot of Chinese restaurants, and I think Chinese food, they all have a very common like, not common, but like we have like pretty spicy food. And my hometown, which is Wuhan in Hubei province, is very famous for like spicy food, and like there's a very famous noodle like called hot dry noodles. Yeah, so we're pretty much like we eat very spicy food. And yeah, like, and also I think there's a restaurant just opened in Broadway, which sells like Wuhan special cuisine, but not sure whether you could still like hand till like the end of lockdown. But anyways, yeah.
More importantly, the question is, have you been able to recreate any of those food dishes over here? That's my question.
Oh, sorry. My earphones sometimes go off. I don't know what. Have I ever recreated my home food here?
Yeah, so like, have you been able to cook anything from back home over here as well?
Yeah, I actually cook like general Chinese food, and I've also tried like the hot dry noodles I've mentioned before, like which I could buy from supermarket, like kind of like an instant noodles. Yeah, so I've tried it, but it tastes really bad. So yeah.
No, I ask you this only because, like, for example, from India, I have so many things that I want to eat from back home, right? But it's just that when I try cooking that over here, it just feels like my kitchen's going to explode anytime I try cooking anything at all.
Yeah.
So I need to be very careful. It's like the most simple things, right? You add like a drop of water and something happens. It's like, how did that happen? Shruti, you had something to say?
Yeah, I actually want to ask Celine that I have heard in China, and there is a particular province where people people eat something that's completely made out of chilies, you know, just chili curry. Is it true? Like, because the place is so like humid, so chili is the only, red chilies are the only vegetable that they grow. I'm not sure it's a vegetable or spice. And at the end of the day, like the curry that they make is like fully made up of that chili, like chili curry, and they love it.
Yeah, I would say I'm not sure whether it's curry, but like in northern province of China, people do just eat like raw like chili, and like sometimes yeah.
My spice tolerance has decreased immensely. Like Indian food is also known to be quite spicy, like depends on what you eat. But since I've moved here, it's just like gone down completely.
Yeah. I'm not sure it's a cultural thing or something. I feel like Australian, they don't eat like quite spicy food.
A lot of spice, right? Yeah, I would think so as well.
Yeah.
Henry, how about you?
So based back home, I believe like we have borders with India, we have border with China and Thai. So I believe there's a lot of similarities within the food culture. So we have curries with a variety of meats or with vegetable curry as well. We have noodle soups. The favorite noodle soup that I like is mohinga, which is mo means noodle and hinga means soup. So it's like a fish soup with rice noodles with a lot of toppings on top of it. Sometimes we put egg, sometimes we put fried corn, and then just mix it over it and then just have a tea. But one thing special I want to discuss is milk tea.
Yeah.
So I believe every country has a lot of Asian country has their own version of milk tea, so we have our own version as well, which is strong Burmese black tea, where we really like it strong as well as sweet. So we put the black tea base, we boil it for like 5 minutes, and then put some condensed milk as well as evaporated milk. So it's like strong and sweet at the same time, which I missed.
That's amazing. I'm literally catching myself licking my lips at the moment, which is very super strange. But yeah, I think like in terms of like the traditional milk tea, bubble tea, I don't think that's something that exists, like at least for me personally back home in India. Like I discovered that since I moved here, but we have our own version of tea back home, masala chai, I guess. Maybe Purva, you might want to touch on that.
Yeah, I'm actually not a big fan of chai. Like, I don't know, I don't really like chai. I would rather drink bubble tea. But in terms of food from India, so even though I've traveled around a lot, like Indian food, I feel like has stayed with me everywhere. It's just comfort food at this point. And if I ever like go to India, like the first thing I do is go on the streets of India, just have everything that I can find, from golgappe to momos to chole bhature. Anything I find is just like the go-to place. Um, and all the happiness comes back in life after I eat all that food. But yeah,
Literally dinner time right now, so
I know, I'm
it's
so
not
hungry.
helping to talk about food very much. Sorry, I'm just looking that way because I have another screen and like I'm just looking at the comments in the live chat as well. So we've been seeing that we have a few fans of Mohinga, as Henry had mentioned as well. So and milk tea, obviously, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't like milk tea, I guess. But Smriti, did you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, as Bova already mentioned, India is pretty diverse, and so is the food culture. And as you move from north to south or east to west, you'll find a huge variety. So since I have stayed most of the time in like a forest reserve of Odisha, like a place where I have seen mostly the tribal people and stuff. So the food culture of that place is like primarily influenced by the tribal culture. And one of the food that I have already like prepared a couple of weeks before and posted is a podo pitha. So we have a festival. It's called the Raja. It's like the festival to celebrate womanhood. So all the unmarried women of the family for 3 days, they don't do any work. They just like, it's called the swing festival. So basically they have to swing, like the jhula we call it. So they just have to do that, and then they'll have a lot of fun for 3 days. Even in some places, the girls are not allowed to touch the ground, because that might hurt. So so it's like for the 3 days they will do that, and then we prepare a pita for the girls. And So that's the podo pita. It's like a rice cake with coconut and then jaggery and paneer, chena filling. Yeah, so it's like a rice cake. This is something we really love, but it's like specific to that festival. So every year we wait for that festival to come, and girls go for swinging, and then we prepare the pita for them. So yeah, it's pretty fun.
Amazing. Yeah, we've been seeing your cooking updates and the recipes that you've been posting on Facebook. I just love it. So yeah, that's awesome. In terms of like things that we might find native to Australia in terms of food, any preferences that you guys have? I know we over here, I think what might be considered local are things like meat pies and sausage rolls and things like that. So does anyone have any favorites over here? Maybe Henry, do you have anything that you prefer since moving here?
Favorite food in Australia, I would say the big breakfast.
Ah, yeah,
That's one of my best food I've had. It includes, as you mentioned, sausages. There's beans. There's egg. There's sometimes also pancake with a honey syrup, maple syrup on top. So yeah,
yeah,
those big breakfast is what I love here in Australia.
definitely. It just sounds like such a fulfilling meal, right? Just gets you going for the day.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else? Maybe Purva? Do you have anything?
I don't think like I like any traditional Australian food till now. I know like Tim Tams, there's Tim Tams or Vegemite, but like I've never had Vegemite. Luckily, I've heard really bad things about it, so I'm being lucky in that sense that I haven't had it yet, I guess. Tim Tams, I tried it, was not a big fan of it. But other than that, I don't. What's Australian traditional food? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, since Australia is so diverse, it's like food from all over the world in like one place, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And also, I'm quite offended personally the fact that you don't like Tim Tams. Like, it hurts me. It hurts my soul.
It's so
Um,
sweet. Like, why would you like it?
I mean, I guess what factors in is the fact that I have a very sweet tooth. So, I guess.
Yeah, same. It's kind of like okay sweet, like not too sweet for me. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. It's like Pringles, right? It's like you can either have nothing at all or just finish the whole pack in one sitting. It's like you can't have like, or is it just me? I think it's just me at this point, judging by your reactions.
Like I can handle Indian sweets. Like Indian sweets are really sweet. If you have jalebi or gulab jamun,
Oh,
but like
yeah.
Tim Tams, I still can't handle those.
I
Fair
think
enough.
Asian sweet desserts, they have more, not just sweet flavor, they have also other flavors
That's true.
mixed with it, so it just makes it more, even though it's sweet,
Palatable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I guess a few more classics that you might find like natively in Australia, things like if you go to the beach, like a classic fish and chips and stuff, I guess that's a very, very common thing over
Yeah.
here, I reckon. And also about the Vegemite thing, I might have to agree with you, Purva, on that because I had it once and I just didn't understand what was going on. It's a very debatable topic, right? So it's like,
I actually want to try it once.
yeah, you might want to try it, but I reckon it might just be the one time for you. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not judging. All right, so for the next topic of discussion, I was thinking we could talk about some of the popular tourist attractions that we might find in our home countries. And if you have like a favorite that might bring back the most memories. So maybe Smriti, we can start off with you.
Sorry, would you mind repeat the question?
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh no, that's fine. I was just saying that we could talk about a few of the popular tourist attractions that
In Australia?
We might find back in our home countries. So something that brings back many memories, or if you have a favorite place that you would visit back home.
Yeah, so Odisha is basically on the eastern part of India, and whenever we try to go for a vacation, it's like out of Odisha, which means either Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, which are the surrounding, the neighboring states. So I think I have been to when I was a kid, because back after that, the moment I approached my class 6, class 7, it was like, oh, I have to study for my board exams, and I hardly ever go for vacation. So in India, we have board exams at 7th, 10th, 12th, and it's like, oh my gosh. So before 7th, I have been to a couple of places in Andhra Pradesh. There is a place called Kailashgiri and Bora Caves. So basically, it's like a big cave, and I think the local Telugu people, they have some beliefs like it's not a religious place, but it has some mythical connections. So they go inside the cave and they try to see something. And in the Kailashgiri, they basically have the Shiva and Parvati. Like we have some of in Hinduism, we have Shiva and Parvati as one of the three Dev gods. So they have their statues installed, and then they have a couple of stuff near the sea beaches. So I'm really I was really delighted to see like the state governments they do so much for the especially the tourist spots. So that was the only place I think I have visited in the southern India. Then on the other sides, I think there are a couple of places like Tirathgarh. I think it was like a waterfall, but it was a really splendid one. So it was really breathtaking. And yeah, I think those are the couple of places I have visited back in India. And even though I know India is a very diverse country, honestly, sometimes I think it's a shame that I never really had the time to explore my country. But yeah, when I'll get time, I'll definitely try to cover from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Kutch to Arunachal. I'll try my best. Yeah.
Definitely. It's just something about the sights and smells and sounds from back home that brings back so many feelings and memories, right? How about you, Henry?
Um, I can totally relate with Smoothie about the site, about the caves that you have mentioned. Like it back in my home country as well. I've been to several caves, and most of the caves you have to go. It's really big, and it's super dark. So we have to like add lights, and then around the caves there's a lot of pagodas, Buddha statues, because Myanmar is a Buddhist country, so there's a lot of Buddha statues alongside the caves, and they just build it. It's been like 100 years ago, and they just build it, and then we sort of like people sort of like go to pay respect or just donate to the caves. And I've seen it not just in my country. I have been to Malaysia. I've been to China, and majority like the caves that I visited, they sort of like relate to do some religion part of the religion. And yeah, so that is what I've explored back in my home country as well. But the most famous place, that's one of the famous place back home that I truly admire and really want to visit there again, if I can possibly go back home, maybe in a year's time when everyone's get COVID vaccinations, is Bagan. So Bagan is like an ancient city. It is also recognized by UNESCO, because there's like over 2,000 3,000 pagodas built 800 years ago by the royal like the royal kings and queens that they have built. So it's really amazing to just ride a motorbike, and then ride along the pagodas, all 3,000 pagodas, explore the sceneries, watch the sunset. So our pagodas and big temples, we can sort of like climb up the stairs, and the stairs are like probably 100 to 200 feet high, and we can just go on top of the stairs and see the sunset on the pagoda. And that's
Imagine that to be very beautiful.
Yeah.
it is one of the most beautiful places back home. So I really want to visit there. And yeah, that's about me.
Yeah, definitely. Something that Smriti mentioned as well. It's such a shame that the world is so big, but so less time to visit every single corner of the planet. Celine, how about you?
Maybe I will share something a bit different. The thing that like impressed me the most of my home place is basically a commercial street like near my place. And yeah, it's kind of a very long, I mean, like it's kind of famous in Wuhan, and being famous as like the name of the commercial street is called like multicultural commercial streets. Like it's been built as like Italian style, like German style, and just like pretty Western like buildings, and like just for shopping malls and like just food, just got everything. And like there's like different vibe of buildings, like rather than very traditional Chinese buildings. And yeah, it's kind of the place that being like every week when I was in high school. Yeah, so I guess that's my memory. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have a very similar street-like thing, at least back home from where I am, in a city called Pune, where we have like a similar commercial street as such, where it's like a central hub to get everything you want. I think it's, correct me if I'm mistaken, Purva and Smriti, but MG Road is in like major cities in
Yeah.
India, right? Not
Yeah.
just in like one city, right? Okay. So it's not just exclusive to my city, right?
No, I think MG Road is
check.
popular. Yeah.
Yeah. Purva, what about you?
I agree with everyone, like in terms of not being able to see all the beautiful places around the world, even though I've like traveled around so much and seen so many tourist destinations. I feel like every country has its own beauty, um, and multiple beauties, honestly. Like for me, like in Japan, like one of my favorite, like I love hiking. So one of my favorite spots were Mount Roko, which is also called Rokosan in Japan. So like when you get on the top, you can see like the whole Osaka area. And like at night times you can see like the lights, the rock garden there, and it's really pretty. So like definitely one of my favorite spots in like Osaka area. But then when I go to India, like I love everything in India. I'm biased towards India. But like one place that I always go to is Gurdwara Sahib in Bangla Sahib. I'm from Delhi, so like I'm not a very religious person, neither is my family. But is this somewhere that we go every time we visit India just because we never lived there? So it's just like feels like home when we go there, eat food there. Like langar is the best thing. Langar is like food that they give out at temples in India. So they have a variety of different things there, and they have halwa, which is amazing. Going back to food again, but like yeah, so like every place has its own beauty, and every tourist attractions. I feel like I've seen way too many that I don't know how to compare all of them at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
True. Any places in Australia that you consider your favorites? Like like once you go there, you're just like, wow. Maybe I'll start with you, Celine, because again, just touching on what you had mentioned earlier in the episode as well, you're a lot into like photography and taking still pictures and I guess filmmaking of sorts. Correct me if I'm mistaken. But do you have like any spots around Sydney that you would go to take like the most perfect shot, maybe?
Yeah, I
Or
would.
something that tells a
Yeah.
story, you know?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would definitely pinpoint like the Blue Mountains.
The mount.
I once went like stargazing with my friend, and like we did bring cameras, try to like shoot like the star circles. I mean like just the Milky Rose. Like if that day we could see it. But anyways, yeah, I still remember that day I went with my friend, and like it's 10 p.m. ish, like at night time, and like everywhere just so dark. And we, in terms, like in order to get the shot of the stars, we need to like drive into like the mountains at nighttime. And I was so scary, legit, like just there's actually no one around us. And but anyways, in order to get a shot, and yeah, it's kind of that day, like luckily there aren't many clouds, so we got the chance to see it before like stars. There are a lot of stars like in the sky since it's kind of far away from the city. And yeah, it's very pretty. And like the Blue Mountains are also very good for hiking and just like, you know, like few days stay with your friend. Yes, I would definitely say the Blue Mountains.
Definitely. Blue Mountains is definitely one of my favorite places as well. I think what I really enjoy in Sydney particularly is that even something as simple as when you're walking down like dimly lit streets, like in the streets of Sydney when it's nighttime, I just enjoyed like those
Yeah.
things as well. Like for example, the rocks. I don't know if you guys would have been like, it's just amazing. I just love the vibe in that place, and it's just like very old
Yeah.
English type of a setting. I don't
Yeah.
know how to describe it exactly, but I just love that setting as well.
I think the
Yeah.
rocks are the oldest, like the most historical vibes places in Sydney. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd like to think so as well. Does anyone else have any favorite places around Sydney or Australia in general? Smriti.
Yeah, before coming to Sydney, I actually started my research for a couple of months, I would say, in Canberra, in Australian National University before I moved to UNSW. So in Canberra, there is a lake called Lake Burley Griffin. So basically, as we all know, like Canberra was they proposed the Canberra city between Melbourne and Sydney, and there was a guy who was the designer called Burley Griffin. So he basically designed the like whole Canberra city with a lot of mathematical figures. Like you'll find arcs and then circles and then triangles and straight lines and stuff. So out of which like there was a circle inside which he put a lake, and the lake was made basically in his name, Lake Burley Griffin. So it's an artificial lake, but the lake was pretty. It looks pretty good because Canberra is a pretty calm and quiet city. It's just like my hometown, so I feel like home away from home there. Like it's full of black swans, and then people do kayaking and then rowing, in the afternoon. So that gives me a very good vibe when I was back there. And after moving into Sydney, people say like Sydney is a much more the population density is much more. But I was so lucky. Like in my first couple of years, I used to stay at the on-campus accommodation at UNSW, which is technically not on campus because they have a Randwick campus as well. So it was off campus, but I was staying near to the Centennial Park. So Centennial Park is a big park and it's pretty green, and I think they take care of the park a lot. Like they really do well in terms of taking care of the park. And there is a small, I think, walkway alongside the park, and I think they have ponds which has big and small fishes, and also so many different type of birds. There is a big owl, sitting on top of a tree, which you'll never be able to see. It's just that you need to ask someone who knows where is the owl. They will find that for you. Yeah, I think I love nature, and luckily, when I landed in Australia in 2018, I got to get a bit of glimpse of it in Canberra, and rest of it in Sydney as well. I think yeah, Australia is full of nature. I mean, if you're a nature lover, this is heaven. That's what I feel.
Definitely. I think it works very well for you, Smriti, because you're a lot into like flora and fauna as well, so
Oh yeah.
that works out. Just seeing the comments as well, Mark from ISLA mentions that we must do an ISLA virtual tour. That needs to happen very soon enough. But hopefully we can do a physical tour as well around the world once things are a lot less crazy.
Soon.
Fair enough.
Yep. All right. So for the next topic of discussion, it's a bit more of an interesting and a fun one, but I thought we could discuss what are some similarities and differences in things like communication styles, behaviors between where we've primarily lived before versus moving here in Australia. So I guess things like Australian phrases or slang words that we picked up, or maybe even talk about things like a different mindset that we may have come to Australia with. So maybe we can start off with Henry.
So when I first arrived in Australia, it was a bit of a hard time to actually catch up the Australian accent. Because I was also from an international school, but we don't use a lot of slangs. We don't use a lot of accents, but here's pretty strong. Like one of the greetings was like, "Good day, mate. How's your arvo going?" And I was like, "Oh, what? Excuse me, can you please explain me in plain English?" Because I'm like, "What's arvo?" But yeah, it was a hard time. But as times goes by, I get used to it, and I am also starting to adapt to the Australian way and the way they speak, the way they communicate. I'm starting to use some of the slangs. I'm starting to use the way they use in talking. So yeah, it was a hard time, but yeah, it took 2 months, and then I've been here for like over nearly 4 years. So yeah,
You're all over it now.
I'm all over it now. Yeah.
Can I just make a mention? I think it was Mark from the Study New South Wales video that they recently did, that they had a discussion on like Australian phrases that they picked up as well. And I think he made a mention of no worries and the fact that you can use no worries in whatever context you want, like anything at all.
Yeah.
It's so true though, right? Like anything at all, you can just respond with saying no worries. It's like anything at all. It's like, what's your name? No worries. I'm like, no, wait, that's not the right response. Wait a second. That's not how it works. But Purva, did you have? Sorry, Henry, were you saying something?
And in addition to no worries, all good, mate. All good, all good.
All good.
All good.
All G. Yeah.
All G.
Yeah.
All G is a big one.
Yeah.
Purva. you have any-
For me, like even though I've traveled around a lot, I feel like Australia is one country that has the most slangs, and they're like hard slangs. They're not even like easy to understand. Like Arvo, first time I heard that, I was the most confused person on this earth. I was like, what's happening? Why are you saying this? Can't you just say afternoon? Can't you just like there are few more letters? Why can't you just say those? That was my reaction. And also Macca's, I was like, okay, I just want McDonald's. Why are you complicating my life right now? But like once you start living here, like you get used to it. You start learning them, you start enjoying using them. But like I came here last year in June, and I was like in lockdown. I was in like doing quarantine for 14 days, and when I got out, the first slang I heard was like, "How's your arbor going?" I was like, "Okay, I don't know what's happening in this country," but
Yeah.
yes,
I think that's one of the most fascinating things, right? That there are so many different ways of saying the same thing around the world, which makes it so much more beautiful in that sense.
exactly, yeah.
I remember that, like, I've been in Australia for like 5 years as well, and I thought that I knew like every single Australian phrase and slang word there is. But more recently, I was in an Uber, and the driver mentioned that he wanted to take a U-turn, and this is verbatim what he said. He said, "I'm going to chuck a Yui."
Oh
And I was
yeah,
like,
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I don't know
I've
what
heard
that
too.
means, but okay, do it. And then he took a U-turn. I was like, chuck a Yui. Well, that checks out. But yeah, so Selena, Smriti, did you have anything to add to that, or maybe a mindset that you come to Australia with as well?
Celine, would you like to add something?
Yeah, sure. So other than the slangs, so in terms of maybe the communication culture, the difference between like maybe China and Australia, I feel like Australia do have a very strong like chit chat, like conversation like culture. Like, yes, I remember the first time I came to Australia and going to a shopping mall and like the stuff like, yeah, how you going, mate? And yeah, just like you basically confront that kind of sentences every day, like no matter where. So yeah, I feel like it's kind of a good way to have a very chill, like very small talks with maybe like strangers, and it just feels very like welcome, I guess. And yeah, and I also remember before it was like kind of normal to confront like strangers saying hi to you on street, which I think is very like I don't know, like when I first confront that, I was like, I'm not very sure. I'm like very used to that. So yeah, that's basically my figure out like of the communication difference, I guess. Yeah.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Celine. Smriti, did you have something to add to that as well?
Yeah, I mean, adding to what Henry and Pooba said about the slangs that Australians use, because I'm an avid cricket lover, so I watch a lot of cricket matches. And if you go to I never really had a chance to enjoy the cricket because of COVID here in Sydney. And the Sydney has one of the I think popular and iconic cricket grounds, the Sydney Cricket Ground. So in cricket, what they do, I think pretty much in all the sports, when Australia does well, I think there is a slang that goes, Aussie, 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 oi, 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 Aussie, Aussie,
That's
Aussie,
popular
oi,
one.
oi, oi. So this is something they say, like Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. Like, in India, it's different. Like they just chant like Bharat Mata Ki Jai and all that. So here it is different. And the similarities that I have seen is in India, people have, I don't know if it's weird or it's normal, but we generally like refer to, say for example, if someone is playing a keyboard, we don't say, oh, he's playing a keyboard. We say he's playing a Casio. We have a weird tendency to sometimes calling an object's name with a company name. Like say for example, if you're having a almirah, I think it's called a locker, not a locker, sorry, it's a rack, like it's a place where you put your clothes in. We say, oh, you have got a Godrej. So that's not a Godrej, it's like the company's name, that's Godrej, but we call the whole thing as Godrej. And it's like, instead of calling keyboard as keyboard, we call it a Casio. We have a Casio, it's not a Casio, it's a keyboard. So here in Australia also, I have seen a couple of my friends saying like if they have an ice box, and they call it, hey, do you have the S key or something? And sometimes they figure out like, okay, it's the company. So I think this is the only similarity I have found. Like sometimes we refer to the object with the company's name, like the brand name of the company. Yeah, so that's the similarity, and differences is like the chant that we do. Especially, okay, I would like to also share one more thing. So today, I think in the afternoon, so I had a group chat with a couple of my friends. So there I put like, okay, have you guys watched a couple of Indian TV shows in Netflix? And there was like one guy who said, oh, this is mint. So I didn't understand what is mint. Then I searched, okay, is it a urban dictionary, like people use, or is it some dedicated Australian slang? So I found like mint means something is really nice and cool. So
yeah.
so yeah, so I'm not sure if it's a purely Australian or just a urban term. Yeah.
Definitely. I think it's just like linking back to the thing that I mentioned earlier. It's just beautiful how the same thing can be addressed in all these different ways. It's awesome.
And
yeah, Henry.
I could add on to what Celine mentioned before, like the way people here, it's a multicultural here, but the way people communicate is really open and approachable. And when you think of job applications as well, it's different from what back home is, because back home we focus a lot more on academics. You need to be on top of the academics, and you need to be in the best university possible, no matter if it's in your country. In India, I'm sure very competitive. In China, in back home, very very competitive. And if you are in the best uni and if you have the strongest academics, then you can easily get a high role here. But here it doesn't work that way. You don't really need to be in one of the best uni, or you don't really need to be be a high achiever. You just need to be a credit or a D. But what is most important is the way you network with each other, the way you communicate. Are you friendly enough, and are you willing to have a coffee catch up? Coffee culture, it's really important. You can easily ask people to you want to have a coffee catch up, would you be available? And then everyone's willing to have a coffee catch up with you, and then that's how you actually network here in Australia. You don't really need to be on top of everything, but you just need to be balanced in all your activities that you're doing. So I just want to add on to what Celine mentions. Yeah.
And one more thing, maybe like before we move on to a new question, I think in Australia they have also a really good culture in terms of putting emphasis on mental health and stuff. So like I think the day before yesterday or yesterday it was Are You Okay Day. So maybe I would like to ask all of you, are you guys okay?
Oh yeah, that was the mental health awareness day as well, right? Yesterday. Yeah, I guess that's something that we kind of do with each other like every single day as well, is checking in how we're going, and especially during the lockdown as well. It's a very timely thing as well, especially during lockdown. So yeah, that's definitely a very good point as well. All right, so thanks a lot, guys, for sharing your input today. But before we close off, we have one last question, and this is something we ask all our guests here on ISLA La Land. So you can make this like a letter to your younger self, or just some pieces of advice. So what is one thing that you'd want to tell your younger self? Maybe about studying in Sydney, being an international student, life, just anything at all in general. So don't mind me putting someone on the spot in the very first go, but Purva, do you want to go?
Thanks, Mohit, to put me on spot. For me, I would say the most important thing was that I wished I knew from like earlier is like invest in friendships. Like being a third culture kid, like was traveled around a lot. Like it was hard for me to like make friends and especially maintain friendships. So I at one point like stopped making friends because I was like, what's the point of it? But then like 5-6 years ago, I noticed like the importance of it, and it's hard to make friends just because it's hard to find people who are like, or like who value the same thing, who have the common interest. But it's definitely worth it to put in the effort, and especially for like international students who leave their country, they might feel like left out at the start, but they need to just like try hard to find the people who they relate with the most. And I think that's the most important thing for me.
Definitely. I think that ties in very well with what Henry had mentioned as well, in terms of like networking and just keeping in touch with your friends and people that you meet here in Australia.
Exactly, yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Purva. Celine, did you want to go up next?
Yeah. I'll try to not to make it like a cliche thing, but anyways, if I need to say something to my younger self, definitely I would say like be ambitious, and also like just don't like doubt yourself too much. Set up a very clear not very clear, but set up a like clear goal for your next phase that you're gonna to move into, like for example, before you enter university, like what's kind of the overarching goals that you want to achieve among like 3 or 4 years uni life. Yeah, and I would also say like just don't like get stopped because you're afraid or like you're not sure about yourself. So I would say like just always try out new things without like just always try new things and get yourself out of the comfort zone. Yeah, so that's basically the thing I would say to my younger self.
Definitely. I think that's so true, Celine. I think just having like a goal of sorts helps you add structure to your life when you're over here as well. You can kind of keep working towards it, you know. So that's definitely a very good point. Henry, did you want to go up next?
So yeah, if I have to go back to when I was high school, after I graduate high school, I would say myself to plan everything in advance before and then think about what your purpose is to actually come to Australia and study in Sydney, because as international students, our parents have to invest in a lot of our monies and a lot of their savings go to our education. So I would say go back time and then think of what my purpose is, and am I really choosing the degree that I love. And I would say research on a lot of variety of university, no matter if in Sydney or other states, as well as explore a lot of what career you can actually walk on once you graduate. And if you are also thinking of the long term, do you really want to stay and continue working in Australia? Does the career valid to what you're studying? Because some of the degrees here you can't actually stay longer once you have graduate. It's not in the migration list and stuff. So I would say yes, it might be a bit early, but I would say just rather than changing the degree here, please, I would say myself to just choose that degree. I have changed my degree twice, to be honest. I started with I started with Bachelor of Commerce Accounting, and I realized that Bachelor of Professional Accounting actually leads to an accountant job. So I actually have to change back to professional accounting. And then I found out that business analyst is also a trend here in Australia, and all these people whose data analysts are just it's the future. So I was like, okay, it's time to change back to a double degree in a mixture of professional accounting and business analysis. So rather than changing a lot of degrees, I would say just hopefully if I have enough time to plan and find my purpose, find my goals, that is what I'm going to say my younger self. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for sharing, Henry. But I think it's just a really good testament in terms of, you know, how you're able to be very flexible and actually, you know, be willing on learning and, you know, changing in terms of what you think might be best for you. And also the 2 Ps, planning and purpose. So thanks a lot, Henry. Last but not the least, Smriti.
So if you ask me if I would go back to my high school and if I would like to change something, if I would like to tell something to my inner self, then I would say I really don't have anything to say. But yeah, like when I passed on in my life, like from high school to college, one thing, like there were a couple of reservations that I have regarding the kind of stuff I like to study. Like back then, I only used to study science. But then when I grew more and more and more, I realized the value of political science and economics on our life in our country and everything. And I just felt like science is only there to give us jobs. But then if you really want to care about the condition of your roads, the hospitals, the schools and stuff, politics play a big role. So I think what I realized later in my life, which I should have knew before, is like I never really put much effort for arts and humanities, social sciences, and commerce, those sort of subjects. I would have studied those subjects more in my high school, instead of putting all the effort on science and maths, or maybe dividing the efforts in between different subjects. And other than that, I was pretty bad at sports. So I think most of my childhood, high school, college, I just wasted thinking like I'm not good for sports because that's what people told me, like you're not good at sports. It's just that until I started my bachelor's, it was really like I was staying in a hostel, and there was a small table tennis court. Like so, like for table tennis, you don't really need a court. You just need a table, a net, and two bat and a ball. So we started playing, and then I really loved that sport. So I thought maybe I should have started playing that one earlier. So I think my message to any of the fellow students who is listening to me is like, don't listen to people much. I used to listen to them a lot because I trusted them because I thought maybe they are friends, they're saying the true things. But if you really like to explore who you are, I mean, you need to try and test things. And I think that's how I grew, and that's how I improved my personality as well. That's why when I came to Australia, it wasn't like it was hard in the beginning. Like when I tried to make new friends, join new societies, I was very shy. I wasn't talking to people. Even if I was going for like exec trips and stuff, I still used to be reserved until someone comes to me and asks me a question. Uh, I think yeah. So I mean, if I would like to say something to my inner self, that would be like, don't listen to people much. If you think you can do something, just go and try it. There will be two things, right? Like either it will happen or it won't happen. That's it. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for sharing, Smriti. That's a very good takeaway. Believing in yourself. Definitely. Thanks a lot, Smriti. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. It's been so much fun having all these conversations with you. I've personally got to learn so much from you guys as well. And I'm sure everyone watching and listening have learned a lot from all of you. So before we close up, we have one last thing. We'd like to invite Celine to talk about an ISLA event that we have fast approaching. So Celine, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mohit. So here I just like to promote an event that's coming soon this month from our ISLA O team. So the title of the event is well-being and empowerment, realizing your potentials. So whether like you're feeling like stressed or isolated during like this special time, just you're all welcome like to join our very interactive and like very interesting like online event to hear like empowering stories from like different international students that like their formal experience and like basically how they've been through all the difficulties times or like how they empower themselves to conquer all like the issues. Yeah, so it will be really like it will be really resonated and like interactive, and we will also like cover like basically 5 topics, which is like our overarching title like of our the overarching structure of our event. So we will introduce you to the meaning and importance of mental well-being. We will talk through like circle of control, so like basically how to stop blaming yourself, and also how to communicate your needs and emotions. We will also bring you like mental well-being toolkits, including journaling, self-care, and deep breathing, how to do language of love and caring, and lastly, realizing your potentials and finding motivations with the value in action strengths. So yeah, I think we will have a very like fulfilled topics and like stories. Yeah, it will be really interesting and fun. So come and join us. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for sharing, Celine. I know for sure that I'm going to be there. So hopefully I'm going to see all of you guys there as well. All right. So keep an eye out on our socials in terms of the event. So yeah, that's all for tonight's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And we hope you guys enjoyed it. So stay tuned for more exciting episodes as well. Next week, we will be having another episode of our podcast as well. So keep an eye out on our socials. Don't forget to give our Facebook page, International Students for Sydney, a like, and our Instagram page, sydney.intstudents, a follow as well. So that's sydney.intstudents. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify and Anchor to stay updated on our future episodes as well. We'd also like to thank, of course, Celine, Henry, Purva, and Smriti for taking the time out and joining us for this episode of the podcast. Really appreciate your valuable input. And of course, Drago Chantachak for technical support for today and all of our podcast episodes. And of course, Susanna Ng for being a constant source of support and our program manager for ISLA, as well as the rest of the ISLA team as well for supporting this project. We hope to continue bringing you guys content that is fun, relatable, and exciting as well in our future episodes. So be sure to stay tuned for that. All right, so once again, this was ISLA La Land signing off for tonight, and we will see you next week, hopefully. We hope you guys have a great day, afternoon, evening, wherever it is that you are listening to us. And don't forget to eat your meals, stay hydrated, and stay safe. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.